I'm out up on the Riviera in Santa Barbara, California. I'm gonna make a video all about living on the Riviera, so by the end of this, you'll understand the boundaries of the Riviera. What are the different sections? What are they like? Because they all feel a little bit different when you're living in them, from the Lower Riviera to the Upper Riviera, and even the backside of the Upper Riviera. Really different feelings in those different neighborhoods, but I'm gonna break it all down so you understand what it's like, what are the boundaries, who chooses to buy and live up here on the Riviera, what are the pros and cons of living here, all of it, including everything that you're gonna wanna know to make a decision if the Riviera is right for you. So without any further ado, let's go explore this amazing neighborhood right here in Santa Barbara. What are the boundaries of the Riviera? If you're living on the Riviera, where exactly are you living? What constitutes the Riviera? So let me break it down for you so you get a little bit of the lay of the land. As you come into Santa Barbara, if you've ever driven in on the 101, as you're coming from down south, you look to the right, you'll see that hillside full of homes. That's the Riviera. And it's anchored by the Lower East Side on one side and the Santa Barbara Mission on the other. This little hill overlooking Santa Barbara consists of the Riviera. The very top of the Riviera is called the Upper Riviera, and the bottom of it is called the Lower Riviera, and it's divided by Alameda Padre Serra. This street that the locals call APS is a thoroughfare that cuts right across us down below over here, across the Riviera from one end to the other. It's anchored by two roundabouts, one over here by the Mission and one down by the east side, the Lower East Side. So the low APS, the Lower Riviera, above APS, the Upper Riviera. And then on the back side of the Riviera, there's another area, that's the backside Riviera. And that is also views of the mountains only. So once you get over there, you're only looking at the mountains. If you're a second home buyer or if you're a couple without kids, that's exactly the type of people that I see really attracted to the Upper Riviera. Families, a little bit less so, because I find that they have less room for the kids to play. You know, you're not gonna come out here on the road and just let the kids go ride the bike. It's hilly, you don't have a lot of sidewalks. So if you're without kids and if you're retired or maybe a young couple with dual incomes, the Upper Riviera tends to be a great spot for them. Now we're at Franceschi Park, one of Santa Barbara's most beautiful parks, and it's right in the middle of the Riviera. So it has incredible ocean views. This was established by Francisco Franceschi, who was a horticulturist who just had a great love for all these different wonderful plants and had this great garden here, a house over here. Eventually, it was, I think, donated to the city and became a park. And so now we get to take advantage of this beautiful space right here in the Riviera. It has hiking trails so you can get around and walk. If you're just feeling like sitting in your car and taking in this beautiful view, you can park in the parking lot here and take it all in. The red tile roofs, the channel, the islands, even all the way up to UCSB, killer sunsets, sunrises over there. So Franceschi Park, the sign says, look out for all the cool landscaping. It seems a little tattered, like you know, maybe they're doing some work on it right now, but it's still really cool and interesting and killer views. And one of the coolest plants I've seen so far on this little journey is this one right up here, which I don't know what it is. It's a grass tree. So I've never seen a grass tree, I don't think, but there it is. And the Riviera has a ton of trees. You actually have big eucalyptus, big oak trees, big pine trees. There's no shortage of mature landscaping and trees on the Riviera, which also can be one of its downsides. I mean, we are up in the foothills, so this is kind of front country, fire area, if you will, because the mountains, anytime you get up above, up into the mountains with all these trees and everything, you have to be a little bit concerned about fires. And as a homeowner, you'll be dealing with things like fire insurance, which premiums may be a little bit more expensive up here in the Riviera because of its foothill nature and because of all these wonderful trees and all this beautiful landscape that features the scenery around all the land, around all the homes up here. One of the downsides about living on the Riviera is parking. It's a premium. The lots are slanted, sloped. There's not a lot of flat area to park on your property. So street parking becomes pretty popular and valuable. Like this property right here, they have this little cutout for street parking. They've got their sign here, obviously custom made, so that no one parks in their zone right here. But if you're having a party or if you're having people over, it becomes really a big challenge if you're up on the Riviera to have them find places to park. So that's one of the things that's a negative about the Riviera. There's a lack of parking. The Upper Riviera has a backside Riviera. So as soon as you get up to the top of the crest, there are a few homes that have that prime position right at the top. But as soon as you get off the top and you start going down the backside of the Riviera, you enter the backside Riviera. No more ocean views, but right over here, I'm looking at really killer mountain views. You can see it's a little bit shady over here, a little cooler. One thing that the Riviera has are microclimates. It can be a little bit hotter on the Riviera than other parts of town, but once you get over here on this backside, it tends to cool down a little bit. But plenty of shade, lots of native oaks, lots of sandstone walls, and you get quite a few homes, some bigger ones, but the real prime, top tier real estate on the Riviera is the Upper Riviera overlooking the ocean. That's where the biggest estates are. You're gonna be able to find some really nice places as high as $4, $5, $6 million. There's even one right now on the market for $9 million, a nice contemporary. So the sky's the limits over here in the Riviera. Now, there's not a lot of commercial space on the Riviera. You've got the El Encanto Hotel, and you've got this business park right here, which is probably one of the most beautiful business parks I've ever been in. Not only does it have killer ocean views, but you've got this great courtyard here and a little bit of history. It's home to several different businesses that lease out different sections of the building, but at the beginning of its life, it was actually part of the original UC Santa Barbara. They had a West Campus over at City College, the Mesa campus, and then they also had this Riviera campus up here. So kind of cool that the Riviera actually started in education. They were building schools over here, and then they needed housing for the students, and then from there it slowly turned into more and more housing. I think actually there was some development happening off of the Mission as well, and they kind of converged, and eventually everyone realized that the Riviera is where you're going to want to build a lot of homes. And it's also right next door to the Riviera Theater. So I'll go. Behind me right here is the Santa Barbara Riviera Theater. This is owned by the International Film Festival and hosts a lot of their films. It's known for hosting art films, independent films, the smaller stuff you usually don't find in the main theaters. This is a really great space for independent films to get their work out and for film lovers to come watch unique special films. Okay, so this is probably the most famous feature of the Riviera in Santa Barbara, the Belmont El Encanto Hotel behind me. One of the nicest hotels in Santa Barbara, beautiful ocean views. They have this great property on the Riviera here, scattered with all these little bungalows, little Spanish cottages, a killer pool, and a really great restaurant overlooking the city over here. So if you're living in the Riviera in Santa Barbara, you may not need to stay there, but maybe your guests will, and they could be next to you. But you'll probably want to come here for drinks at sunset, maybe dinner, anything like that. It's a really great asset in the Riviera neighborhood to have something like this. And if you're close enough, it's the only place that you could walk to on foot to go get a drink or a bite to eat or something. So this is a great asset, one of the coolest hotels in Santa Barbara. Now, the Riviera is steeped with a history of education. You remember we got UCSB started up here. We also have Marymount School, which is now the Riviera Ridge School. This site was identified as possibly the Western White House back in the day, and it became a school, and now it is the Riviera Ridge School, an incredible private school. The Riviera also has Santa Barbara Middle School for grades 6, 7, and 8, and the elementary school that everyone who lives on the Riviera feeds into is Roosevelt, right down by the Mission. So that's what the schools are looking like right up here on the Riviera. So one thing that you need to know about up here on the Riviera is that all the water seeps into the hills and it drains out. So drainage is a big deal up here. You can see we haven't had rain in a couple days, but it's been a very wet winter, and the hillsides are all leaking. This water is just finding its way out. And this continues. We're up on the Upper Riviera, but this process goes all the way down to the Lower Riviera. So every property owner has to deal with their drainage, and sometimes it's very expensive to mitigate. If you've got an older home or you're purchasing an older home, we're going to want to inspect that to make sure that it's dealing with its runoff and its drainage properly, that the foundation hasn't been undermined because of some drainage issue. But this is a common problem up on the Riviera. Lots of water, especially in the winter, filtering out of the hillsides through properties, onto properties, and you know, if your water is going on a neighbor's property, it could become a problem, but we understand how to navigate it. We have a ton of professionals in town here that we call on when we're helping people like you find the right property to inspect it and understand everything going on with it. I had to pull over because right behind me, this vacant lot that sold a couple years ago is now breaking ground because they went through the approval process, and they're drilling a foundation with caissons. And that's another thing about the Riviera. A lot of this hillside construction requires extra beefy foundations, so some of the homes don't have them and they've been retrofitted. They'll underpin them, but we've got contacts for all the experts that can analyze any property available in the Riviera and let you know if you need some extra support under there, but it is something to be considered here. And any new construction, you're gonna have a ton of caissons underneath it. Very expensive, but at the end of the day, that's what you want to make sure your home stays up on the hill. One thing that's really amazing about the Riviera is not only do you have incredible views during the daytime when you could see the city and all the red tile roofs and everything, you could also enjoy amazing views at night with the twinkling lights. You can see the cars moving along the freeway, and even the oil rigs out on the channel make it a special view at night. All right, we're driving all over the Riviera to make this video for you so you understand it better. And right now we're on the Lower Riviera, found ourselves at this weird little intersection. We got Farello, Garcia, and Rubio going off in the distance there. And that is really a great representation of what it's like here on the Lower Riviera. You got all these streets kind of like spaghetti going in all different directions, winding its way off of the Upper Riviera, swinging off of APS above us there, and you could drop down any one of them and make your way down to where you get into either Milpas or the other side of the Lower Riviera, which is gonna drop you down into the Upper East Side. So this Lower Riviera section, people like it because it feels more like community. You get to know your neighbors a little bit closer. The Upper Riviera tends to have bigger homes. You have gates, fences, walls, not as much interaction with your neighbor. Here, I think these neighbors tend to walk a bit more because you also have some walkability if you want to go on a long walk, Milpas Street down here. But I think the ones that do walk, they get to know each other. And because the houses are a bit closer together, the density is a little tighter, you get to know your neighbors maybe a bit more. So that's something I think you could distinguish between Upper Riviera living and Lower Riviera living. And this may also attract families a little bit more because of possibly the price point being a little bit lower and just having a little bit better access to the schools and everything. You're always so busy as a parent, so that could be a bit more attractive as opposed to trying to drive all the way up to the top of the Riviera whenever you're trying to get to our home from soccer practice or something like that. So definitely some great aspects of living down here, and the community, knowing your neighbors. If that's something important to you, then it's definitely maybe the section you'll find yourself landing. Now right here at one end of the Riviera, APS, Alameda Padre Serra, ends right here at Mission Canyon Road. We have the Santa Barbara Mission behind us and the Rose Garden. So being that this is so close, this is definitely a neighborhood feature. You've got a perfect spot for a picnic. The roses are about to bloom. You could always tour the Mission. It's a cool historic site. And there's a lot of relics around this area here. You can see the old reservoir and one of my favorite parks in town, just down the street over there, Rocky Nook Park. So this is all very close to the Riviera. I'm looking at it just right up here. Some of the first homes built on the Riviera are featured right here at the end of Plaza Rubio, the street that we're on, as it makes its way up and follows down off APS. Those are some of the original homes. Really cool spot right here on the Riviera at the base over by the Mission. Now we're gonna also show you the other side of the base of the Riviera over on the east side. All right, now I'm in the parking lot of one of my favorite venues in Santa Barbara, or the world for that matter, the Santa Barbara Bowl, which is right at the base of the Riviera. When you're living on the Lower Riviera, right up there behind me, if you can make out some of those homes, they have a great seat to the concerts. Whether they like it or not, there's concerts in their backyard. So right up here is the Santa Barbara Bowl. It's a natural amphitheater built into the hillside. At the top of the seats, you can see the ocean views of the Riviera. Really, really cool. Great venue for concerts. One of my favorite spots ever, right up here, the Santa Barbara Bowl. So we made our way down to Milpas. This is at the base of the Riviera, as you can tell, right behind me, all those homes. That's where we've been touring all day today. Now Milpas is the East Side's commercial district. It's kind of East Side's downtown. It's not the place where you want to walk like State Street. It's not that kind of commercial district. Usually you drive to the places you want to go, but I'll tell you, it has the most concentration of delicious tacos that you'll find anywhere in the world. Tons of little taquerias, including the most famous one right behind me here, La Super Rica. You could tell by the line out the door, that's pretty much standard operations for La Super Rica. It is super popular, so lines out the door all day long. On the weekends, forget about it, take some time, be patient, but it's definitely really, really delicious, like most Mexican food. I haven't found any I don't like. But Milpas down here, you also find things like Trader Joe's. We also have some pet stores, and you know, it's a mix of some industrial stuff and some stores, and it goes right down to East Beach. So that's the way that Milpas is set up from the County Bowl where we showed you that concert venue, all the way down to East Beach. It runs along that stretch. So this is what you get at the bottom of the Riviera. If you want to jump down here, it's kind of busy, but it's also kind of fun. All right, so we're continuing to drive around the Riviera to show you everything we could find, and including this little parklet that we're at right here. I hadn't really been here before. We decided to pull over and check it out. It's right at Paterna and Lassen. You know, these are the unique things you find in these neighborhoods around Santa Barbara. You won't find them unless you go explore, or you know, someone like myself gets out here and brings it to you and shows it to you. There's a lot of these little nooks and crannies all over town, including on the Riviera, and that's why we're out here making these videos, so you understand it better. So if this is valuable to you and you want to know more about Santa Barbara, you could always subscribe to our newsletter. We're putting it out every other week, and it's full of real estate information and community information. If that's important to you, definitely subscribe to that. It's a great way to stay in touch with Santa Barbara. So I'll put a link at the bottom in the description of this video if that's something you're interested in, along with other ways to stay in touch with Santa Barbara real estate and myself. We make these videos so that you can educate yourself about Santa Barbara and reach out to us. We want to connect with you. We love it when we hear from people that have watched our videos and said, hey, Santa Barbara is where we want to be. We've been watching your videos. Please, can you help us find the perfect home? And that's what we love to do. That's what we'll do for you. So thanks again for watching. I'm Joe Parker with the Santa Barbara Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, California Properties, right here in Santa Barbara. Love making content about my hometown for you guys. Thanks for watching. Make it a great day.